Good afternoon, and once again, welcome to VetNet. My name is Jason Dozier, Manager of Plans and Operations here at Hire Heroes USA. I'm joined by two of our veteran transition specialists, Andrew Workman out in Raleigh, North Carolina, and John Saran out in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I am here in Atlanta, Georgia, and today we'll be talking about strategic planning. And before I go into the class and turn it over to Andrew and John, just a reminder, we do these classes every week at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday. So this week we'll be talking about strategic planning. Next week we'll be talking about resume writing. We have classes on interviewing, LinkedIn, networking. So the whole kit and caboodle as far as what you need to do to be successful in your job search. We've been doing these classes for about 2 years now. VetNet has an ongoing partnership between ourselves here at Hire Heroes USA, the Institute for Veterans and Military Families at Syracuse University, and Google. And like I said, we've been doing it for about 2 years now. And if you miss a class or you have any further questions or you want to see us teach anything else, then feel free to visit us on YouTube or Google Plus and either go to our channel or sign up to receive alerts about our next few classes. And if you want further classes or further instruction or further assistance, feel free to register for services with us at hireheroesusa.org. And the veteran transition specialists like John, like Andrew, will work with you one-on-one to help you work your way through the transition and help you with your resume and interviewing, all those things you need to do to be successful in your job search. So without further ado, Andrew and John, go ahead and take it away.
All right. So my name is Andrew Workman. I'm a veteran transition specialist out of Raleigh, North Carolina. A little bit about me. I have 9 years service in the Navy and Navy Reserve, about half of it on active, half of it in the Reserve. I came from a background in retail operations and sales operations, and now I'm here at Hire Heroes USA. John, do you want to introduce yourself and tell a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, my name is John Saran. I'm a veteran transition specialist as well here at Hire Heroes USA in Colorado Springs. I spent 13 years in the United States Army as an infantryman. Was medically retired in 2013. From that, I got out of the military and was working in the operations department of a financial institution called T. Rowe Price. And now I'm working here as a veteran transition specialist. So.
All right. All right, so today we're going to talk about strategic planning. The question is, why should you care about your professional development? So, with that being said, we'll talk a little bit about today's veterans. Just so you know, I'm going to give you a few statistics. So the veteran population is at 21.4 million. That's a mass majority of people. Break it down to you a little bit. The Gulf War era is at 6 million. This is the largest percentage of veterans in the workforce now. And the Gulf War II era, which is your post 9/11 veterans, is at 2.84 million, with 40% have served in Iraq, Afghanistan, or both. And they're the most likely population to be unemployed at 9%. So with that being said, that you would have a lot of competition in the job market. Things are getting better from the recession before. People are starting to hire more veterans now. So you're going to see those statistics coming down of certain unemployed veterans. John, do you have anything on that slide?
Yeah, and something else to consider, folks, is that the unemployment rate, it doesn't also factor in. It's just through a census. It doesn't take into account, those people that came out of the military and were retired and do not want to work. It doesn't take into account the veterans that come out that are using their post 9/11 GI Bill. So it just kind of the questions that come across is, are you working? Yes or no? And that's really about it. So just keep that in mind. The numbers are actually a little lower. So just kind of food for thought.
All right. Okay. So if you look at today's Gulf War era veteran, they had the highest employment rate of veterans, and when you're looking at residences, 3 states that you can keep in mind for states that employ vets will be North Dakota, Alaska, and Virginia. Typically, Virginia has a pretty high employment rate for veterans because they do a lot of federal hiring around there, and a lot of contracting as well. If you look at all the military bases around there, they, I think it's like five naval bases and some other types of military installations. If you look at Portsmouth, they have the big shipyard there. So they have a huge veteran hiring rate out of Virginia. When you look at Alaska and North Dakota, I mean, they're leading in the coal and natural gas industry. So they find value in a lot of the skills that you're coming out of the military with, and within those states. If you think about certain locations, when you're looking for at least a long-term career, like, okay, do I want a temporary job here? Do I want a long-term career? So let's find a city that I can move around in that's better, especially if you're a reservist or a National Guardsman. For example, a city that that might not be so well. If you look at Fayetteville, North Carolina, they get the Army base there. So if you're going to apply for a job around the base or around that area, then the market might be pretty saturated with a lot of veterans with the same skills that can relate to what you have. So that might not be the best if you're looking to move, at least for an area for a certain career. So obviously, when you're talking about education, unemployment is higher for post 9/11 vets with an associate's degree or less than in comparison. Obviously, the more education you have, the better your opportunities are going to be for employment. One of the trade-offs is for veterans coming out of long stints in the military, 5 years and up. Yeah, you might not have that. You don't have a college degree. You're going to have a lot of experience that a lot of people stepping off the college campus won't have. That holds value, such as if you've gone through certain leadership training and management training, you've done long stints of it, so you might be more marketable in certain segments than others. So this is something you can leverage that to your advantage. Something that you can keep in mind when you're getting out and when you're looking to tailor your resume and without a college degree. Your experience can outweigh, depending on how much experience you have, a 4-year degree. But it's also very important. If you can tie both in together, then yeah, you're full speed ahead from there. All right. So we're looking at industry. Gulf War era veterans are 2 times as likely to work for the government than a non-veteran. Well, this is true because as a lot of veterans coming out, they have security clearances. That holds a high value for compared to civilians, where a lot of companies, especially in the government, like we're talking about, don't have to pay for someone to get a top secret clearance, which costs a lot of money, or secret clearance. And these people that are going to those types of jobs, they already have a lot of hands-on experience working in that segment. So that's why if you're looking at getting to government jobs in that industry, that's something that could be attractive to veterans coming off active duty. All right, disability. So 58% have a service-connected disability rating of 30% or higher. 65% of data of service entry is post 9/11 vets. So that's about 1/3 of veterans that reported a disability rating. Though if you have a disability, it can be for some people it can be disconcerting. But keep in mind that 1 out of 5 Americans in the workforce have a disability, and that's civilians. So there's a lot more civilian people with disabilities than you would think of. Veterans. So people off the top of their head then say, okay, well, people have more disabilities being veterans, though it's not the case. You're actually the minority. So looking at that and moving forward, just think about there's a lot of companies that are working towards finding ways to hire people with certain disabilities, because just because they have a disability doesn't take away from the value they can add to that company. So it's something that you can look at and might lighten the path for you. All right, John, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the disability portion, just remember you don't have to tell the employer that you're, disabled in any way. You don't have to talk about your combat injuries if you have any, or anything that happened while you were service connected. That's something for them to kind of deal with afterwards and make those accommodations, whether it be a wheelchair, ramp, or any of those things in which they have to by law. And also keep in mind, like I said, don't play into the whole disability card. Don't go forward just thinking that you're going to get a job just based on the disability. Please just, because that's also a thing, is kind of a disqualifier for a lot of employers, is going to raise their health care coverage. It may, increase their insurance coverage. So, just wait and say that to the time that you get the offer of employment, and then, wait to bring it up if you have something that, you need a special chair or a special wheelchair ramp. That's the time to bring it up, is after you are employed.
Definitely, I agree with that. When you're going through the interview process, if it doesn't directly affect the job, and you don't have to necessarily disclose certain types of information. You're protected under certain laws for that. Some things that a disability may work in your factor. When you look at the hiring for certain federal jobs on USA Jobs, you would get a higher percentage rating or point scale, is what they call a point scale, for against other vets that don't have a disability. So when you're applying for jobs, keep that in mind as well. All right. So we're going to talk about a little bit about the unemployment rates. So this slide is looking at 2013 data. Now they've changed a little bit since then. The good news is that the numbers are going down, and the unemployment rate has gone down to below 6%. And the veteran unemployment rate is also declining. The economy is getting better, and that should shine some light on your upcoming job search. You're looking at 6.6% veterans. The national average, which was 7.2. Gulf War Era 2, which is your post-9/11 vets, was at 9%, and then the your post-9/11 vets that served in Iraq and Afghanistan, both are at 10.9%. Most likely because that's people that have more disabilities in that rating. So, but keep in mind, like we said before about disabilities,
for a second there. Okay, so yeah, so what he was talking about with the unemployment rates, just keep that in mind. We talked about it a little bit earlier. It doesn't also factor in who's going to school. One of the reasons why the Gulf War Era 2, Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, it may be a little longer for them to adjust and transition back into civilian life, as well as, versus, the Gulf War Era veteran that potentially did not deploy. So the transition time might be a little bit different for those folks as well. This is just basically food for thought for you.
It's good information, John. All right. So we'll talk about some of the barriers to employment that veterans might have. One of the first things is lack of understanding how to self-market yourself. So veterans coming out, it's hard for them to translate some of the skills that they have, that they've learned. Selling themselves in certain markets and being competitive. So, this can easily come from, not properly, knowing exactly what you did, such as, someone might be, like, for example, military police, but they might have, like I know in the Navy, that you go from one job to the next, that you're slotted at their job. So you might have many other different tasks. You can actually sell yourself and translate those skills on paper so you can get an interview. There's many different types of tools out there that you can go to. Obviously, that's one of the things that we do as a service that we can help you out on. Unrealistic expectations. So this may get in the way when trying to decide on a career. There are a lot of companies nowadays that want to hire veterans versus then the way it used to be. That doesn't mean that you won't have to fight for the competition to find a position. A job will not just be waiting for you when you step out the gate with your DD-214 for the first time. You'll have to work for it. Most vets do not want to start over with all the training, which is something they perceive when they get off active duty. They're like, okay, well, I got X amount of time in this job field, but if you don't know how to translate those skills, then you won't be able to pick up that job that you want. So preparation is key, and sometimes it's going to take about a little longer than people might expect to actually find a job. So when you're talking about unrealistic expectations, it's it's going to be tough when you get out to actually pick up a job fast as you think you're going to. For some people, especially if you're starting in a new industry, start somewhere to reach. You got to start somewhere to go to the top. So if you're coming out as a military policeman, for example, or just an administrative assistant, but you want to go into IT, you got to start somewhere else. And you might have to come in as internships or probably an entry-level position and work your way up from there. Same thing with salary expectations. A lot of people will think, well, I'm going to make X amount of dollars when I get out, because I have. But you think about, okay, well, I'm making so much money in the military, but I also got certain types of allowances, such as like BAH housing allowance, your BAS food allowance, certain hazardous duty pay. Well, if you look at your base pay, compared to that, yeah, you make a lot of money. But when you get out, all that special pay is going to be gone. So you got to be realistic about what you're actually looking to make when you get out too. You can't inflate it to what you were making. Sometimes you might have to take a step back to get to where you were. Not saying that it can't happen, because it can. It's just how you approach it. Before I go on to with the next few bullets, John, do you have anything to add to those?
No, I think Andrew hit it all. Just make sure you go into the transition understanding, what is realistic, what is the salary requirement that you need to support your family. Add up all your bills together. Figure out talk about it with your spouse. What are some things that you need, and then also think about some things that you may have to cut out of your potential lifestyle moving forward in order to prepare for this adjustment. And like Andrew said, we're not saying you're not going to walk in if you want a $50,000 job a year, you're going to be able to walk right into that. That's definitely possible. We see veterans coming out going into $100,000 jobs, but just be realistic. As far as what you have and the skill sets you have, the certifications you have, the degrees you have, and how they relate to the career field that you're trying to get into.
Definitely. All right. So next category would be military jargon. Okay, we all have that. So we all speak in like certain acronyms that mean something to us, and other service members as well. But you want to leave that off your resume, and you want to leave that out of interviews, because people are just they have no idea what you're going to be talking about. So you need to translate those skills ahead of time so you can actually display what you're actually trying to what you want to put forward for people to perceive. Especially when you come down to like certifications, job titles. Like if you look at MOSs and rates, okay. So if you say I was an NCO, people aren't going to know what you're talking about. So they don't know that means non-commissioned officer or what position it was at all. You can only sell it as like a certain type of manager or supervisor. In the Navy, like there's certain rates called YN, which is yeoman. Okay, no one knows what a yeoman is, so you translate it as administrative assistant, master at arms, military police, things of that nature. So make sure that you're just kind of leaving the alien jargon that civilians have no idea about kind of outside of it, and be prepared when you go in to explain it all. Certain stereotypes and social stigmas. For example, people may think, oh look, a vet, he has PTSD. Well, this is not the case anymore. People are finding the value in the vast amount of members coming out of the service, and in certain things that they've achieved, and they're looking to hire these types of people. That not everyone thinks that that you're not going to be a good fit anymore. People are seeing that with the results that vets are driving through their industry. So keep a positive outlook on that. And just remember that the more you sell yourself and certain skills, the better chance you're going to have. All right. So, John, do you have anything to add to that?
No, just I will say that Hire Heroes USA has perfected its ability and our ability to translate that military jargon in your resume. Some of it, sometimes that's going to be the most challenging thing when you get out of the military is trying to equate that experience into how it's going to equate into a civilian corporation and what it's going to do for value added for them. So feel free, obviously, to reach out to us. As Jason introduced us earlier, registration, and please reach out to us, and we'll definitely help you out with those translation, those military skills.
For sure, that's what we're here for. to help you out when you get out, so you don't have to stress so much about it. All right. So, what are some of the perceived disadvantages when finding employment? Um, so this kind of breaks it down to some of the percentages that you might be getting into. Um, Explaining how military skills translate is something that every veteran should learn to do. 60% of veterans do not know how to do this. So, like I said, just like John said, just like us and some other industries, we're out there to help you do that. I know when I came off active duty, some of the things, I sit down to write a resume, and right off the bat, I really didn't know what I was doing. I went through TAPS for a week, but does it really help? You got to sit down and put hands on it, and that's how you're going to perfect it. Um, Employers think veterans don't, they don't have like adequate skills, and this number is at 28%. It's one of the hardest things to do in some industries is managing and motivating people. A lot of things that veterans can add to industries would be some of the classes they've taken, the leadership training they've had towards having these types of skills that other people may not have. So if people are put in certain different situations, being in the military, different environments, and leading people, certain technical skills you learn through that. These skills, like we were talking about, you can translate, and once you learn to do that, then that number will go down. So 48% military culture. Through interviews beforehand, and then I talk about the military, and then I want to talk about football teams and how, or baseball teams, and how they played baseball, and it's very similar. Well, it's not. It's a whole different world. Some employers don't understand that. There's camaraderie and all of it, but there's some of the things you have to detail out and explain. And some of the experiences that you've had and how you come together as a team to actually accomplish a goal. Employers avoid hiring veterans is 24%. The stipulation is that a vet will not flow within the company in a certain way because he or she is used to a different type of lifestyle. One of the things we learn as veterans coming out, or military members coming out to be veterans, is that how to adapt and change management as well. So if you're in various different countries or you're in various different commands, you're always adapting and changing to that command climate or that culture. So that's something that you can add value to the industry, and then that 24% that wants to avoid, prove them wrong. John, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I mean, I think you hit the nail right on the head. Just make sure we're trying to do a good job of trying to explain that. So just like Andrew was saying, if the employer doesn't know exactly what you did or know exactly what the military lifestyle is, that's for our time for us to be able to explain that to them in a clear, concise manner. So giving an example, some veterans go into an interview, and sometimes we talk about on the resume, operations, and they're going to ask you, well, what kind of operations were you doing? That's for you to translate. You don't want to. You kind of want to go into the high road of we talk about training. We were doing this on this organization on this training date, but you don't want to dive into the details about how you're doing a helo cast off the side of Mott Lake. That doesn't really add any value added, because then it's going to bring up the whole. You're still talking with the military jargon. So being able to translate that not only on the resume but inside the interview is really key. And once again, it's not their job to understand our military culture. It's for our job, to be able to explain that and relate that to them and have some value added to their organization. And then you see there's small numbers on the side. Employers avoid hiring veterans. And just like Andrew said, go ahead and go out there and change that perception by being able to speak clearly, concisely, change those stereotypes that might be out there about certain veterans by just putting your game face on when you go in there for that interview.
Yep, thanks, John. Yeah, like John said, definitely go in there and relating the skills you have at the interview to right directly to them, that's gonna change a lot of people's perceptions and possibly gain you the position. All right, so advantages to employment. So the top of the list there is entrepreneurial. Okay, so a lot of vets coming out, you know, they they're very keen to hey, let's start my own business. So having that entrepreneurial spirit is great because it drives the economy. Now some of the things that make vets good with the startups is they have come out with the discipline skills required to drive forward and then make sure that things are done before they go for the evening. So being disciplined and making sure that you reach your goals and that you're earning, working towards something to succeed, to penetrate possible market segments. That's definitely something that you can think about doing too when you get out. You've learned the disciplinary skills to actually go into business for yourself. For some people that actually find that interesting and want to work for their own self when they come out. Preparation is key when you enter that market. So that's some of the things that you can look at as as you're transitioning. Another advantage would be your advanced technical training. Especially when you're in the IT industry or you're in intelligence or whatever the case may be, or even if you're aircraft maintenance. A lot of those skills were directly transferable on the outside. If you're a truck driver, your commercial driver's license, and that could directly translate to the outside too. That's as well as your leadership training and management positions. You can use that to your benefit, especially when you put it on a resume and then go and portray that through an interview as well. Or whether you're networking, make sure you know how to translate some of these skills, and those can work for your advantage. You might have the opportunity to work on certain vehicles or certain aircraft. You're looking at mechanics that civilians haven't had the chance to do. So you're extremely marketable in that that factor of it. All right, another advantage will be high levels of resiliency. So one thing that most veterans have learned going into boot camp all the way through, doing their deployments, coming out, is handling high levels of stress. You're taught from the beginning how to handle stress when you're getting yelled at in boot camp, and you make it through all the way to the end through the long PT sessions. So you can use that for your advantage, and definitely use it as a selling point when you're going through certain industries. And that's something that holds high value. Whether you can deal with a mass amount of customers at the same time, or work in a high-paced field, whether it's certain fast retail operations or to the IT industry and the overload of information that's coming through. Advanced team building skills. You learn that is working as a team to finish operational goals. That's a selling point as well. Strong organizational commitment. Vets will stay true to the organization that they are working for. That's commitment, is instilled, like I said, from the beginning. Whether if you're in boot camp all the way to the end, people are very, in nature, very strong-willed about, what branch of service they're in, and they'll stay committed to it all the way to the very end. That's what gives everyone their honorable service. And then that's the commitment they make when they first come in, when they sign that dotted line of that contract. So, since commitment for that works in your advantage, that can definitely go far in a company because you're going to stick it out to the end. John, do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that we also use the term entrepreneurial is kind of a self-starter. So when everybody comes out of the military, most of the people that come out of the military, our ability to task prioritize and get things done on their own without a bunch of hand-holding. So that is a key thing that because while you're in there, how many times have you been in the military and they've asked you 5 different things to do all within an hour long time span, and realistically you need 2 hours to accomplish it, but somehow you accomplish it in that hour. So that's that true entrepreneurial spirit. That's that spirit coming out. The technical training, obviously Andrew hit on that. We have leadership schools. There's not too many civilians that go through a lot of leadership pipelines. So your advanced leaders training, your primary leadership development course, your corporals course, any of those courses, they weigh pretty strongly because you've been through advanced management training, and a lot of the competitors that you're competing with in the marketplace haven't. Obviously the team building skills. You work with the world's biggest team, most diverse team in the world. We work with all races, colors, religions, and you be able to explain that to the employer and let them know that absolutely, I can work with anybody. Explain why. The military is a very diverse place, and you have to be able to work with people. Doesn't matter who they are. You got to be able to accomplish the mission and get the job done to standard. And then, just make sure that a lot of companies are looking for organizational commitment. They want you to be there for a couple of years. That no one wants to hear that you're going to come into the company and leave the next year. So, obviously you've had strong organizational commitment while you were in. You had strong organizational commitment to your platoon, your squad, or whatever it might be. So, just continue to relay that, why you want to work for that company and why you're going to be value added to that organization, and what really attracts that organization to you is something that's also key as well.
All right, thanks, John. All right, so if you look at the next slide, as stated at the top, the reward for hiring veterans is worth it, according to employers. And there's a quote here: "What you get is an individual who has high integrity, a high sense of honor, and who wants to do their very best." Now, I definitely find that to be true. High integrity, for sure. Ethics is driven into you as you've gone through your military service. People that like what John said earlier, do their very best and stay till the job gets done. That's something that companies will see, like, hey, everybody's gone for the day, but this guy's still here because he's gonna stay till the job's done. That's a selling point as well as you're going through your job search. And another quote would be, because we have a voluntary military, these veterans have volunteered to do very tough, very difficult jobs, and I definitely agree with that. So a lot of jobs that people, wouldn't do, vets have stepped up and done them. So what's to say that they won't take the next step into the next difficult job when it comes to their full-time career on the outside? So I definitely agree with all that. John, do you have anything on that slide?
Nothing else really, but for a lot of the veterans out there that think that there is that stigma of not wanting to hire veterans, this kind of goes against that. So this should show you that here it is, a senior vice president is going out and saying this. So we got top executives at every level of organizations that are wanting to hire veterans because they understand our value. They understand what you can bring to the table. So don't get caught up into that, stereotype or stigma that they don't want to hire you, because they do. A lot of companies, the vast majority of companies, 80%, want to hire vets. So they understand what you're going to bring to the table. You just need to be able to relay it inside the interview.
Yep, definitely. All right, so on the next slide, it's kind of reiterate some of the things that we said, which will be employer identified advantages to hiring a veteran. Obviously, we talked about entrepreneurial and having a startup. Not because most vets don't have to be micromanaged. They can leave a company on their own. They assume high levels of trust. They hold advanced technical training, such as like we said, certain types of aircraft that have been worked on, or it's hard to pay for someone to go to school on the outside. It's hard to find that school. People have that already coming out of the military. They're comfortable in discontinuous environments. This falls for vets that have been deployed in certain various areas, and how they adapted to that change as they spent the 8 to 10 months out there and came back and then started over back to where they were. They're kind of comfortable with that type of change management, and especially if you're coming out and you want to go towards the IT industry, for example, that's something that holds high value because it's an ever-changing environment. High levels of resiliency. You can handle stress in many different types of environments. I know, from personal experience, I'll go from living on an aircraft carrier to being in a riverine squadron. High level of stress in both those environments, two different worlds. And that can, I'm sure it relates to many of you watching this, through your different various jobs that you had throughout the military. Advanced team building skills, the leadership training you've done, you've been able to lead from 10 plus people throughout your career. and you've actually implemented that and been successful in finishing certain operations or goals throughout the day to end up in a successful mission of some sort. And your strong organizational commitment, which it's a big advantage because people like John said before, big corporations they want to see someone start from the beginning and stay with them for a long period of time. And veterans have a huge track record of that because they signed up for originally 4 years. They've already given that amount of time, and whether they want to stay to retire, they already given 20 years. That already shows a strong organizational commitment, especially when you're in the military where you're doing a lot of things that normal people, or I don't say normal people, certain civilians that never joined the military wouldn't have volunteered to do. All right, John, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think we hit a lot of it on it. The only thing I really want to talk about on this slide in particular is comfortable and discontinuous environments. Change is a big deal inside the civilian organizations in corporate America. A lot of companies, go through a huge change management program before they start rolling out change of any sort, and it's a big deal. A lot of the employees don't, take it very lightly. But coming from the military, we're used to change. We're used to change consistently on a daily basis. So that's one of the things that you're going to be able to walk into an organization and just flow with the tide and just take things as they come. Kevin, are you still with us?
You mean Kevin Henry? Yes.
Yes. Kevin, do you have any questions so far? Or?
No, I'm tracking.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right, so we'll move on. If you look at the slide for advantages of hiring a military spouse, so we'll move away from the actual veteran, and we'll go into the military spouse world. A lot of military spouses, they've might have been out of work because they had to take care of a family, because the husband was on deployment, or the case may be. So that definitely holds value because you can take on the extra responsibility in a stressful environment. Like that would go with adaptable. Of course, flexible and hardworking. Those all tie in. A lot of people they'll actually they'll take on different volunteer experiences, whether it's with the spouse's unit or whatever the case may be, or certain clubs on base to keep morale up. They've learned to be flexible. Because to be in the military, you got to be flexible. So they're with their husbands and their families, they're along with that flexibility. So that's definitely a selling point when you're moving and writing a resume. And then that ties along with what John was saying, the change management factor. That's what corporations are looking for. Definitely marketable traits such as if you look at adaptability, that's adapting from one state to the next, from one job to the next. So that's hiring a military spouse is definitely a great thing. Like I said, responsibility, flexibility, adaptability, and the hardworking factors of it. John, do you have anything to add to that?
No. Just if you are a military spouse, just feel free to once again reach out to us. We have ways of covering those gaps in employment using certain types of resumes, such as a functional resume. So we can work around some of those gaps and try to take a little bit less emphasis on the gap and more emphasis on what you bring to the table.
Yes, definitely. We definitely specialize in that. If you are a spouse, there are certain ways you can tie into building a resume, such as certain events that you've done while you're a spouse. Like I said, that ties in with the volunteer experiences as well. All right, so the next slide we have legislation and law. So one of the things I would recommend would be definitely know your rights. Do your research. There's only certain questions that people can ask certain people when they're going through interviews. What we tapped on before a little bit at the beginning was certain disabilities. We were covering that segment of the slides. Now, this is all to ensure that you have a fair chance when you're doing the interview. So, a certain list of laws are here on the right side of the slide, which is your Title VII Civil Rights Act, your Vietnam Era Veterans Readjustment Assistance Act, your ADA, so the Americans with Disability Act, that ties in with the disability that if you have a disability coming off active duty, whatever it is, you don't have certain thing, if you read the law, you might not have to disclose certain information unless it's required for the job. That's very personal for some people. The USERA, if you're a reservist or a National Guardsman, that can definitely work in your factor. So that you can, keep not only get a job, but hold that job as you go throughout your service. So that's two things I would definitely, I recommend that you do would be do your research before you go into starting doing interviews, and because if you have something that might concern you about it, you might be protected. John, do you have anything?
Yeah, just as a reminder, obviously Hire Heroes USA is not a legal firm, but we're just providing you this information so that you can look it up prior to going into your interviews and understanding what your rights are. So feel free to write all this stuff down and jot it down and do some research yourself. Obviously, we can't offer legal advice, but these are the laws that are out there. Just be aware of them. But don't but at the same time, don't go into the interview pretty much like a barracks lawyer. You don't want to go in there and start well, according to this law, according to that law, because it's not going to really play out too well for you. So just understand the laws and be aware of them and what they can do for you, what they kind of protect you from.
I definitely agree with that, John. All right, so we'll bring it up to where how do you approach your transition? A lot of the stuff is going over what we've already discussed, which is recognize barriers and advantages in today's workforce. So your advantages, as we talked about, certain technical training, your team building skills, how you can translate certain types of jobs that you've done that necessarily aren't the actual your MOS or whatever the case may be, but more like the whole scope of everything you've done. A lot of that can definitely work for your advantage. Identify the professional goals and career fields and job markets. It ties back into researching the area that you want to work in. The field you want to work in, where do you have to start to get there to meet your financial goals? Also, look at your family as well. How's that going to affect them based on the move and financial goals and what career you're going into? Research is key in this factor. Consider your education. I believe in education. I believe that, especially with a lot of vets coming out, the post 9/11, take advantage of it because a lot of people are already taking advantage of it, of theirs, or civilians are going to have, are taking advantage of their educational opportunities and trying to get a leg up on you. So definitely stay competitive and reach your personal goals as well. Tying your certifications from the military into your education or the goals of your education. That's going to work in your factor. Understand your personal needs. So, as we discussed, your income, your family, and then your medical needs, and your family's medical needs. Find a position that, or hopefully find a position where you can get to that's going to cover and, encompass that entire group. So you're happy working, you want to stay with a job, stay employed. As obviously have a, a happy household as well. All right, stay realistic and keep an open mind. Expand your network and begin the job search. One of the things that we teach here at Hire Heroes USA is, how to network. So one of the things that we like to use a lot is LinkedIn. That's the #1 networking tool out right now. So if you're not signed up for Hire Heroes USA, then I would recommend that you do, and then you can use some of our LinkedIn training as well when you tie into that. If you're already signed up, definitely take advantage of that. LinkedIn, they have a lot of promotions for vets. All right, and also get out there and go to these hiring events and network with people, talk to people, put a face to a resume, shake some hands. Be as friendly as possible. It's going to work out for your advantage. Trust me. All right, because a lot of times when it's you probably heard the expression, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and that's the truth. All right, so but that can also go both ways. All right, John, do you have anything to put into this?
Yeah, just two things on this slide that really stand out to me is considering your education. A lot of people Well, when you look at the job posting, you can, like Andrew was talking about earlier, if it says equivalent experience and you don't have a college degree, that's the time for you to show that you've done the job for the last, 4, 10, 15 years. Okay, that's quite a equivalent experience. So make sure you're putting that best foot forward and translating those skills on paper as well as in the interview. But also not not applying for jobs that require a Master of Science and you only have a bachelor degree. So understanding your competition for the job that you really want and what kind of certs and stuff like that is needed in order to get into those organizations and companies. And then lastly, stay realistic and keep an open mind. It is a tough market. Stay optimistic. Optimistic. You do have the skills that you're going to be able to bring to the table and bring to all these organizations. You just got to understand that it's good tough competition out there, and that's why you have to kind of distinguish yourself, whether it be on paper or inside that interview. So once again, like Andrew said, 64% of all jobs come through a networking source. So making sure that you're linking in with people on LinkedIn, you're networking with them, you're connecting with employers, HR managers, recruiters, and finding out what is their employment process like. How can it be? What should you be doing? When's the follow-up? Figure out a little bit more about the organization before you go into the job search and start applying for it. So just continue to have a good plan going forward, and obviously the people that are attending this VetNet, you already are way ahead of the curve because you are planning, and I thank you for being here.
Yeah, just tie into with the LinkedIn as well. There's a lot of groups that you can join. There's military groups, vet groups, certain types of groups that you might have that you can join that might have been your specialty in the Army. So that you can meet, maybe officers, like say you're an E5, you're going to meet like an E6 or you're going to meet an O2. That might be in the same group that did the same job as you. You're already relating already. So that's the person, if they're hiring at a certain organization, you can reach out to on a personal message just through LinkedIn, and you can go ahead and get noticed that way. So, like we said, just expand your network. All right, so. Just to summarize kind of what we've gone over, strategic planning, develop your plan and leverage your resources to successfully transition to civilian employment, introduce current facts about the job market as well as, veteran spouse specific realities. This is some things that we all that Hire Heroes USA offers. We help you discover tools and techniques for industry standard resumes, and we help you create a resume that's specialized to you with one-on-one assistance with your veteran transition specialist. Like we help you with networking and LinkedIn assistance, and explore opportunities for engagement with professionals in social circles. We also help you with mock interviews, and we can actually do personal interviews with you as well if you think you need assistance for that. Certain techniques and how to make you more more marketable in today's job market to ensure that you're the top candidate. All right. So I'll just leave off with that. And John, do you have anything before we go to the questions?
No, I just want to thank everybody for attending that, and hopefully stay added moving forward into your transition.
All right. Thanks, John. All right. So we'll open it up for questions now if anybody has any questions.
Hey, gents. Sorry, I don't really have questions for you. I have looked a lot at the subjects you were just talking about, and I mean everything you said makes sense. Definitely, I understand the positives of hiring veterans, and kind of what we bring to the table. Probably the hardest thing is just networking and getting the other side, the hiring managers and everything, to kind of understand exactly what you guys are saying. And that just seems to be the toughest difficulty right now. So,
now, are you having trouble actually from the interviews? Are you having specific problems with that, or are you just talking in general?
Probably in general. I've really only had 2 in-person interviews. in the time I've been there, but a lot of it's just no response at all from companies. Which can be very how do you say very frustrating and discouraging. But no responses and stuff like that, or maybe even dealing with some of the veteran recruiters, the people at the companies that are supposed to be veteran recruiters, and finding they're not all that helpful, or so just
Right. So I assume you do have a LinkedIn account, right?
correct.
You have the free account for veterans?
Yes,
You do?
absolutely. And I tell everybody about it that I come across.
Okay.
They have that added benefit there.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have a VTS that you do one-on-one with?
He's linked up with Jesse.
Jesse? Okay. So yeah, if you're having trouble, you just don't get frustrated. Keep going. Our cover letters. If you have a cover letter, that can definitely work for your benefit, and keep on tailoring. It is tough, especially to get noticed. And like I said, some of the things that worked to my benefit when I was transitioning from when I was working in retail operations. I went from just being an assistant store manager to an operations manager just through someone I knew through LinkedIn. Like joining those groups as veteran groups. He was actually a veteran. He was like a 10-year Army Ranger. I sent him a quick LinkedIn message, and then I said, hey, just take a look at my profile. Obviously, you want to make sure your profile is perfect compared to your resume. And then he got a view, and then he put a personal touch to me, my face and to my resume, and then he called me up, and then, so it works. Networking definitely works in your favor. So I would just say keep utilizing LinkedIn. Join some groups,
Right.
and just keep moving forward. It's going to be tough.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, good luck to you.
Oh, my dog. Sorry.
All right. Thank you for attending. Good luck.
You.